opportunity.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to share my experience as a developer using Unity engine, but also Unity products to optimize the performance of our game. So after a very quick intro, I'm going to share how we've been using Unity LiveTune to improve retention and Unity Ads to improve monetization. So who am I? So for those who don't know me, I've been building games for more than 20 years. A lot of different games on different platforms. My career really took an interesting turn 10 years ago when I got the opportunity to build and lead the analytics team for Ubisoft. That was really an eye-opener. I really discovered the power of data and how we can use that to get feedback on games, on player behavior, and how we can feed that back in to improve the game. So after that, I switched back to game production, and I decided to focus on mobile free-to-play because I think that's the space where we can do that the most interesting way. So I've been building some interesting mobile games like Scrabble, Jurassic World, but also recently a Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch with Nvizzio Creations. So that's an independent developer based in Montreal, in Canada. We are doing our own games, but also games for clients, most notably Atari. We are handling the entire Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise now with them. So we've been building games on mobile, on PC, on PS4, and recently on Switch. And that presentation is going to be focusing on Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch. It's a game obviously built with Unity engine. It was released 18 months ago, and we are getting an additional 1 million players per month. So the game has a lot of traction. But I'm going to show exactly how it works. So when we release, we got an amazing response from the audience immediately. The game was featured globally by Apple. During the launch week, it was the most downloaded app worldwide. Above Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. That was really amazing. So that set us on an interesting trajectory. But it's not because you have a good start that you're going to be healthy in the long run. Of course, it's a marathon. So is this really working? Do you get enough retention? Do you get a good monetization? The answer is always no. You can always do better. That's true in our case. So I'm going to share my very personal view on how the business works. In the end, it's all about revenue, right? But to get that, you need to have an LTV that allows you to acquire new users at scale. So you need to improve, to optimize your long-term value per player. And basically, that's the combination of retention and daily monetization. That's very simple. And I'm going to show how we've been able to work with Unity product to improve both retention and daily monetization to increase our LTV and be able to scale our user acquisition efforts. So I'm going to start with LiveTune. So it's going to be maybe a little redundant with what Jocelyn brilliantly presented a few minutes ago, but we did not coordinate it. So that's going to be my testimony on that. So the game has been released 18 months ago, and over the last 18 months, we've been able to grow the game in terms of scope, adding more assets, adding more game modes into the game. And as you can see there on that slide, the playtime has been increasing all the time. So that's good. But the question is it a good time for players? We are allowing them to do more, but it needs to be working well for them. And the reality of the market is that the market is really fragmented. It's true on iOS already. That's an old snapshot, but you can see that pretty much all iOS devices are played by some of our players. On Android, it's even it's very difficult to see because there are thousands of different devices. And of course, those devices are more or less recent and don't have the same specs. So the quality of gameplay can really vary depending on the devices. On that slide, you can see that depending on the devices, so that's Android, you can see D1, D7, D14, D30, and you can see that there is a drop that goes with how old the devices are and with their specs. So in order to be healthy and be able to buy more user, you need to be there. If your devices are there, probably it's going to be more difficult because your users are going to churn and soon enough and won't be able to maximize the LTV potential from the game. So we knew that right from the start. We measured it, and that was true. The LTV was based on was strongly correlated to retention, and it was difficult to maximize LTV on a big percentage of our audience, especially on Android. So we built our own custom solution with our engineers. We started to measure frame rate, crashes, and retention, and based on those findings, we were able to customize the settings a little bit. But that was very slow because we had to change the build. So maybe with each monthly major update of the game, we were able to improve the situation. But that was not really super effective. And also, that's not our job. Our goal is really to focus on the game itself. We don't want to build sophisticated tools. So that's where we got those interesting discussions with Unity, starting to develop their solution. And of course, that was really interesting for me to work with them on that. So what's really important with Unity LiveTune is that it's online. The settings are online, so you can really after you've done your configuration of the system, you are able to tweak it in real time. You can do changes any day and get results immediately from your own tester or from the live players as well. So that really allows to iterate a lot faster and goes a lot further in terms of experiments. So that's a snapshot of the configuration of LiveTune for us in iOS. It's a longer than that. I'm just showing a few parameters there for which we are able to change the configuration for different families of devices. What's interesting there is that you can see that there is no single column that has exactly the same types of settings. So it's not because you have an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 6 that you know that all the different parameters will be able to configure exactly the same way. No, that's not true. LiveTune is a great tool, but it doesn't do anything by itself. You have to know your devices, you have to know your game, you have to know what kind of parameters is going to be working well with a device with 1 gig or 2 gigs memory or with specific types of processor or GPU. But at least it's online and you can really do changes on the fly and get a feedback immediately. So that's really efficient for us. And then, so you can see on Unity's LiveTune dashboard, you can see how many players are playing and are set on each family of settings. And you can see, so you can see if you have bad performance on some devices, for instance. Is it a big part of the market? No, so that's fine. And the good performance is really for most of the market, so that's fine. There you can see really that for the biggest chunk of the market, we have an excellent frame rate now, and we are still struggling on some older devices, but that's fine because it's only a few percentage of the market. So the results aggregated on a simple chart, you can see that we got a huge jump in frame rate. But it's not just all about frame rate. It's also preventing the game from crashing, for instance, when the device is getting out of memory. And as you can see here, it's mostly on Android because the market is so big, and we have a lot of users playing on Android in many different countries, sometimes on very old devices. It was barely playable. And because of all the work we've done with LiveTune and with our own engineers to better understand the impact of each part of the game in terms of performance, we've been able to really fix that and bring Android retention almost on par with iOS, which for us is really a tremendous achievement. So there you can see the concrete impact. A month after we released the update that was using LiveTune, you see that D30 retention on Android has jumped immediately from 4 to 6, and we've been able to continue to iterate and improve that further after that. So that was really good for us, because some users never play. Most players never pay. 95% of players don't pay. But for those who pay, some are paying immediately on the first session. If you have a good day one offer, for instance, you're gonna get some interesting monetization from those players. But of course, it's all about repeat purchase, and you need to keep your players engaged for the long run. So that's where D30 is really interesting, because if players understand that they have a good reason to buy something in your game after 2 weeks, after a month, after 6 months playing the game, they need to be there. So the performance has to be good, so that they are still happy and comfortable playing your game. So that's it for LiveTune. Now I'm going to be talking a little bit about monetization. I won't talk about in-app purchase. I'm just focusing on ads today. But as Slava showed a few minutes ago with in-app purchase promo, there are a lot of things that can be done to improve the monetization from in-app purchase as well. So ads. So in the case of Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch, the game is a builder with a strong gacha component focusing on cards. The game is about getting cards from different rarities, improving their level, upgrading them to improve their stats. Players really engage. They understand the system. They engage very strongly with it every day. So of course, when we decided to create ads, it was very clear that it would have to be user triggered, because we don't want to force interstitials or banner in the face of our users. We want it to be something they want to do. So we have this little widget on the main screen there. Every 4 hours they have an ability to watch an ad to get something, and it was very natural for us to create our first placement to give them an extra card pack. So that has been working extremely well, and after that we decided to go further. We decided to not show them more ads, to give them the same type of contents, because we knew that we would get declining return on that kind of practice. But instead we try to add more placements delivering other types of content. So basically it's very simple. We are giving the option to watch an ad for each type of resource in the game. So soft currency, hard currency, a special currency. And as you can see there, recently we added a new placement, and it's over a few days, as long as a player were updating to the new version of the game, it took roughly the same share as the other types of ad placement. There is only one ad placement there that is in yellow. It's really hardcore because it's tied to a very specific game mode in the game, so it's not really used a lot. But for the other 4 ones, they are all working as intended, and there is a very high percentage of the players that are engaging with the systems every day. So that's all good because with more ad placement, as you can see, each time we have been adding an ad placement, there has been a clear jump in ad monetization, so roughly between 0.5 cent and 1 cent per ad on average. But I want to draw your attention there. When we added the third placement, we got this huge jump for a very limited time. It was almost as high as where we are right now with only 3 ad placements. Why that? It's because we benefited from special deals. So not all ad impressions are paying the same. It's really a question of eCPM. And there we got this really nice surprise, but it was short-lived. So after we experienced that, we tried to work harder. So that's why I'm talking about the relationship we have with Unity Ads and with other ad network partners. It's all about finding the right balance between eCPM, so how much the ad is paying per impression, and the ad availability. Not all ad networks have the same inventory, and there is an inventory for each bracket of payment. So as you can see here, it's a battle. All the different partners we have in the game are competing to deliver the best eCPM. Sometimes it's different. Most of the time, in our case, it's Unity. But really, what's really interesting is that ad availability from Unity ad inventory is really by far superior to the one we had from the other ad networks, which allows us to really focus on eCPM with them and guarantee the highest revenue for our game. So by combining all the progress we made on retention on the game since the release with LiveTune notably, and also all the improvement we made with ads, but also with our own internal system of promotion for in-app, we've been able to improve the daily revenue per DAU by a factor of 3 since the beginning. So it was already not bad at the beginning, and now we are like super happy with the level of performance we have, and that translates into a much stronger LTV, of course, which allows us to scale our user acquisition efforts. So the game is in a really healthy state right now. We are working very hard with our user agencies to develop our strategy to acquire players. And right now we are acquiring about 1 million players every month. So I think that game is really on an interesting trajectory for the next 2, 3, 5 years. So are we done with optimization? No, of course not. It's never the end. For retention, for performance, for loading times, for pushing the right promotion in front of your players, everything can be optimized all the time, and we need that because it's also important to combat the fact that there are other games coming on the market, so you really want to stay competitive and really be among the best. So it's a battle that's not gonna be won easily. So that's it for my little presentation. Thank you very much.
Great, well, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions, or I will leap in otherwise, you know, your chance. So I think it's worth exploring it a bit further, because I think there's some really cool stuff that you guys are covering off. I mean, I think, you know, this combination that you've got between all these tools that you're using, and I particularly like the fact you're showing the comparison of how you're using multiple networks, not just the one. How easy is it for you to be able to learn the lessons that you've learned from the Unity team and apply it across all the networks that you work with?
The thing is, the more partners you are using, and the more tools you are using, the more work it takes. And it's really important to understand that in order to be competitive, you really have to build up your team. And it's really important to factor that in when you are preparing your budget, especially for live ops, because when you are developing the game before it's live, you can really focus on the core dev team. But when you get live and you need to really optimize on all those aspects of the game, either you are the publisher of the game or you are just the developer of the game, so that's really a discussion to have with the publisher of the game, but it's really a dedicated team that's going to be running the live ops and optimizing the game. And so we are talking anywhere between 1 to 10 people on top of the dev team to be able to have really the right bandwidth to optimize, read the data, and work with the dev team to optimize everything.
And I think it's a massively important lesson for people. In fact, there's a session later on live ops in more detail. But I mean, I think that's the thing: is successful games are only the start.
Absolutely.
And the work that you guys are obviously doing to make sure you're optimizing, it's probably as much effort, I imagine, as making the game in the first place, to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely. And when the game is live, everything is becoming more difficult because you want to continue create new content, of course, because your audience wants to have always access to something new. But at the same time, it's more difficult because your game is live. Don't want to break it.
Yeah.
So development is slower. It's more difficult. And at the same time, you have all those new things to look at and to work against. So
yeah, no,
you need a bigger team.
I have some very painful memories of doing things that broke games. Plenty of years of running services. It's so hard. Always make sure you can roll back. Just a lesson to learn from. We had a problem with the PlayStation Home back in the day. We hadn't worked out how to roll back the system. And that was painful. That was so painful. So on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you.